Hello everyone and welcome back to the mrfilmart channel. I am Mr. Filmart, aka Steven, and today I am here to talk to you about episode 2 of House of the Dragon. Well, as you can tell, it is just a review, no reaction, because there was a little faux pas, and after much screaming and cursing and trying to revive the video, it was for naught. Anyway, but I figured instead of me disappearing completely, why don't I talk to you about my feelings on episode 2? And the thing that I'm taking away from this show is that it is going to be very contained. I know that it is probably more expensive than the first season of Game of Thrones proper was. In total, because the dragons are going to suck away a large majority of the budget. However, I can't help but notice that we are just purely in King's Landing, and I do miss from the original series jumping from place to place to place. Like, I miss going from Winterfell to Essos to King's Landing to wherever else we were going. So this story just feels very contained. It doesn't mean that it's bad, it just means that I miss the sprawling nature of this epic, but, you know, there's still time. That's another stipulation I have to make. There's still time to expand everything, because it's only episode 2, because that also leads me to another complaint I'm having. Again, I don't want to, I'm getting the negative out of the way so I can harp on the positive, because there is more positive than negative, but another negative I am noticing is the characters here are just not as, how do I say this bluntly, they're just not as interesting as the characters in Game of Thrones quite yet. I know season 1 of Game of Thrones, some of the characters were not interesting yet, let's be real. Robert Baratheon was a bore of a human being, but he wasn't the most interesting character. His history made him more interesting than himself. Nothing against the performer. I'm forgetting his name. Fred Flintstone's performance. But there's no Tyrion in this show, obviously, or Tyrion-like character in the show. And I missed that humor. Spoiler alert for this episode. I should have put that in the beginning, but I'm going to get into spoilers of this episode. But, so spoiler, in this episode, King Viserys, I'm still getting used to the names. The king is debating marrying a 12-year-old girl, a 12-year-old child. And there's no one making smart quips or jokes about it, like a Tyrion would, of pointing out the absurdity of just the situation at hand. All it is them talking about, well, she would be a good match, she would be a fine match because of XYZ. It's yeah, but no one is going, but she's 12. No one wants to point or poke at the absurdity of it. Again, the character development needs to go further. It's only episode 2, but I do miss the humor of the original series. I say that now, but at the end of Game of Thrones, sometimes the humor was a little bit too much. Anyway, another thing I do miss, and I was talking about this with my friend, and it just brought up a larger discussion, that we're watching a political intrigue show without much of the intrigue, or because again we're missing a character like Varys or Littlefinger, whom you see are maneuvering things without actually maneuvering things. And what I mean by that is, yes, we have people in this show like Otto Hightower trying to make moves in a chess-like manner, but he also we don't see the inner machinations of the politicking. We don't see, Varys had his little birds. I miss knowing that people had spies around the city. But, again, there's still time for the show to grow. Back to what I do think is good, now that I spent, 5 minutes talking about what I'm a little iffy on. What I do like about the show is ultimately the production design. I was thrilled actually to get the theme song back, because I didn't realize how much I missed that opening theme until it started playing, even if I don't necessarily love the background of it. It's just blood dripping through the model in the king's bedroom, which is pretty funny. Anyway, as to what I really like about the show, the performances are excellent. Even if the wigs are not so great. But everyone in this show is doing a really good job at what they are supposed to be doing. Especially, I should have looked up her name, and I'm sorry. I'll put it over here. But the name of Alicent, she is doing probably the most with the least. Because she is very much like doing what I was complaining the show doesn't do often, which is she's more subtle. There's a lot of politicking with her, but she's not overtly saying what it is that she wants to say. She learned from her father, clearly, Otto Hightower, but I'm glad that the story is progressing. For those who don't know where the story is going, I will not spoil anything, but this is a big move. So all in all, the show is pretty good so far. It was cool to see two dragons on the same stage. That was refreshing. That was probably the best scene in the entire episode. The Dragonstone sequence. On that bridge or staircase, whatever it is, both. Just because of the stakes and because of the performances again. And it was, again, really nice to get out of the fucking castle, the Red Keep. I need to get out of there a little bit more. And it was really good to see Rhaenyra, kind of pushing the boundaries of what she is. Because she is more capable than she is given credit for at this particular moment, and she knows it, and she needs to prove it, because if she wants to maintain her status as the heir apparent, she needs to prove, I could be a badass too. That being said, Otto being there and looking nervous, that kind of makes me nervous, because Otto is the kind of guy who likes to control the monarch that be. But, whatever. Anyway, those are my general thoughts. I know it's not a typical review or a typical situation. Hopefully next week we will be back up with a reaction and review of this, and moving forward I would like to do Game of Thrones and Andor, so there's going to be a lot more content. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Tell me if you like the reaction or just the review more. I'm curious, because this was a little bit easier. No slight. Anyway, that's about it. If you like this, if you want to see more of me, you can follow me on Instagram. And if you like what you see on Instagram, you can purchase some of that art on Etsy. My Etsy page is linked below. Anyway, that's all I got for you today, and see you next time.